Hello there, heroes! I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to Just the Facts on Kamen Rider Dragon Knight Episode 6, Kamen Rider Torque.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
2-minute recap intro, because apparently kids can't remember ongoing plot points. Though I should say that I've been binge catching up on Star Trek Discovery, and that show begins its episodes with recap plot points of whatever little details are going to be mentioned in the current episode, so I guess doubting the memory of your audience is just ageless. Len tells Kit, after he asked, that it was the Ventaran Kamen Rider Dragon Knight that betrayed the other riders. The two hear the portals open and head to Ventara to fight some gel newts and a couple of zebra monsters. After Kit handles his, Kamen Rider Torque, lands saying, okay, listen, his name is Drew, the Green Rider from before, shows up and attacks. The two get to a stalemate, and Kit says that this new rider should be helping him and Wing Knight fight to protect Earth from Xaviax. But Drew, scoffing, says that it's actually Wing Knight who betrayed the Ventaran Kamen Riders and is working for Xaviax. Kit doesn't believe this, of course, but Drew sets a scene up for his benefit, attacking Wing Knight, and then General Xaviax conveniently calls through the mirror, encouraging Wing Knight to finish Torque off. Kit believes this because Kit is a himbo.
I need a himbo! I'm holding out for a himbo till the end of the night!
Kit confronts Len and basically calls him a sellout. Over at the bookstore, I don't roll my eyes because important plot is happening. The mysterious JTC calls Maya with a tip. There's a group of people in the Unidentified Disorders Unit of the hospital, sealed off in a secret wing, that are acting like sleepwalkers in a catatonic state drained of mental energy. The two of them head over there with a genuinely funny moment where they get Lacey to cover the bookstore. They get into the UDU wing by putting on scrubs and lying badly because either Kit's himbo energy is spreading through Los Angeles or the cards in this show really just suck. Although actually, it's just dramatic convenience. Anyway, Kit heads to Ventara to fight one of the two zebra monsters, but apparently doesn't realize that there are in fact two. The one he's fighting gets away, but when he sees Torque fighting the other one, he thinks that's where his went.
Moron!
Torque destroys that one with his compensation gun, and Kit is convinced. Meanwhile, Maya and Trent find Frank Taylor, Kit's missing father, in the same condition as the other patients in the wing. Let's read the cards. Episode 6, Kamen Rider Torque. Pros: a fun twists and turns plot, a nice mix of action and story, and even the bookstore was redeemed. Cons: relies a lot on leaps in logic, Kit's lack of trust makes no sense, and acts like we're fooled when we already know the twist. I liked this one a ton despite its flaws. Kamen Rider Torque gets 4 cards out of 5. On its face, this is actually a pretty fun plot. It twists and turns, changing a lot of what we just established. We've come to trust Len alongside Kit, but now, bang, maybe he's not as reliable as we thought. For the most part, well, some, okay, not really at all. This is actually tying into a con, so I'll get to it. But hey, I will say that despite what we do know about Drew, we don't know a whole lot about Len, so there is some room to play with that. This episode molds action and plot very well and moves very nicely between them. The episode works very well as one cohesive story because the action is a part of the plot. And I actually mean that in both a Holmesian and a Doyleist way, because it's not just a part of the episode story, but a part of the evil plot, making Kit distrust Len. It's not like it was astounding action, but it never outstayed its welcome. And yes, in this episode, the bookstore mattered. I mean, really, it was just where Maya happened to be. If this story had been told today, JTC probably would have just called her on her cell phone and she could have been literally anywhere. But it wasn't the setting of just silly comedy, and even Lacey was played rather well. She wasn't a stupid ditz this time around, just a confused friend. But yeah, the foundation on the plot for this episode is more than a bit shaky. Kit's plot relies on him being smooth-brained, and Maya's plot relies on the cop being smooth-brained. It strained believability nearly to the breaking point that either of those two believed what they were told to believe. Somehow it doesn't take too much away from the episode, but I don't know why, so it is worth mentioning. Let's go ahead and hone this in on Kit here. This is really the moment where he had just decided, just in the past episode, to really trust Len and throw in with him in the battle. His conviction has to be at its strongest right now. This is the most that he will trust him since he just made that decision. But he is convinced so easily to throw away that trust after such a weak display. Kit knows that General Xaviax is the bad guy. Why would he believe that Xaviax was genuinely calling out to Wing Knight and there was nothing else behind that? And then there's Drew. To be perfectly honest, Drew acts like kind of an arrogant jerk even when he's pretending to be a good guy. So why trust him when you just met him? And yeah, that leads to by far the biggest flaw in this episode. Big parts of this episode seem to be written like we share Kit's doubts and whether it's Len or Drew that's telling the truth, to the point that we actually get a false flashback of Wing Knight betraying the other Ventaran Kamen Riders. And all of that is entirely meaningless because we already know that Torque is evil. It's like they forgot that that was revealed to us already, despite the fact that they reminded us of it in the introduction to this episode. The suspense is entirely external. We already know that Kit is being fooled, so we just feel like he's that much more of an idiot for being fooled. This episode was better than it had any right to be. Relying on Kit being a himbo and a cop being a moron should have broken the immersion of this episode over its knee. But it didn't. The hospital scenes were still full of tension and drama, and there's genuine sadness over the things happening between Kit and Len being driven apart by this jerk, especially since we know he's a jerk. Next time on Dragon Knight, Kit is fooled into a new partnership with Drew, while Len is left on his own against the forces of General Xaviax. How's all that gonna work out? Let's take a peek at the 7th episode of Dragon Knight, Friend or Foe. Kit is reunited with his catatonic father. Drew says there is a cure, but Len says there's not, and Kit's not sure who to trust. And that is going to wrap up another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it, down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, you can check me out at Patreon, Ko-fi, or Teespring at Orange Ranger Videos. Until next time, heroes, may the power of the cards protect you. 2-minute introduction intro, wow. I guess doubting your audience's intelligence is just ageless. I even looked over, but my brain just couldn't latch on to where to go. After Kit handles his, both Holmesian and Doyleist, really, because the action scenes are established as setting up. I almost pulled that out. This episode works very much as a cohesive story because things fall down. And I mean that in both a Holmesian and Doyleist. And the this really is the point where he had just decided to really throw in with